my old videos recently, and one of my favorite types of videos to film and rewatch are reading vlogs. And so I thought I'd film another reading vlog because why not? That's literally all I do is I work and I read. And I sleep sometimes. So I'm the leader of Rom Com Book Club at the bookstore that I work at. I originally started by picking out the books that we read. I think the last time I talked about this in a vlog, I was still picking out the books. Since then, we have moved on to letting the people who come to book club vote out of, like, I pick the 3 newest releases for rom-coms and then I let them vote. So it's on them if it's a terrible book. And I'm not gonna lie, it's been quite bad the past few ones. So this month, I said, dog, we need to have a banger. And it's just so important because we've had not great ones. Like, we haven't had over a 3-star ever. Our girly Carley brought this little baby out. Every Summer After was such a banger. Like, I read that in one sitting on the beach. It was perfect beach read. It was just so, like, it was literally perfect. So I'm looking forward to this one. I've tried to stay away from social media because this one came out either last week or the week before. But a few reviews have trickled in and I haven't heard I haven't heard terrible things, but I have definitely heard that it's not like the first one. Like, the first one is banging and this one's just like kind of lackluster compared to the first one, which is fine because, I mean, how can you compete when you have like a literal perfect summer romance and then, like, how can you follow that up? So we'll see. It's pretty short. It's only like 300, yeah, 300 pages. So book club isn't for another like 2 weeks, so I have plenty of time to read before then. But I also have had 2 people reach out to me from book club that have just finished the book yesterday, and they said it wasn't bad. I'm on chapter 7, but I just wanted to pop in. Nothing like crazy has happened. So Will and Fern met 10 years ago. He was just like painting the wall in the coffee shop that she works at, and he was like, let me take you around Toronto, because she's only living in Toronto for another week because she went to college in Toronto and then she's moving back home to the resort that she grew up on and she's like working at for the summer. Well, it's going back and forth between the first time they met, they spent like a beautiful day together, and now 10 years later he just like shows up at her resort and he's like, hey, you remember me? And she's like, you were supposed to meet me at this resort 10 years ago and now you just show up and are like, hey, what's up, dog? But they're living at, well, she's living in her cabin and then he happened to get the cabin right next to hers. So we'll see. I'm liking Will though. He's a cutie patootie. He's like an artsy little guy 10 years ago and now he's like all slicked back hair and like a nice little suit, and he's at the resort not for a leisurely little trip, no, he's helping run the resort with her. I think we're gonna have a lovers to enemies to lovers mate, which I kind of love. Like, I appreciate an enemies to lovers, but a lovers to enemies to lovers, I also appreciate. I'm loving how this vlog is only me in bed. Trust me, I've done things in between clips. This is a whole different day. It might even be 2 days or 3 days since I last filmed. I'm not bedridden. I just like to read in bed and lay down because, you know, I don't have to explain myself to you. Anyhow, so I'm like kind of almost done. I have that much left. they just got together. And so usually that part of the romance is like, boom, they're together, we're popping and locking now, like, it is good. No. When they got together, it only made me angrier than I already have been during the reading of this book. Because I don't want them together. They're so stupid, they're so immature. They spent one day together. They see each other 10 years later. I haven't thought about anybody else since. I've only thought of you. Be so for real. Be so for real. You spent one day together. One day together 10 years ago. Haven't talked to each other since. Meet up 10 years later. And there's like supposedly gonna be this big plot twist where he tells her why he didn't show up 10 years earlier. I'm not here for it. Like, I don't even care. Because initially he was like, I didn't show up because I was worried that you fell in love with the wrong person. Like, we were only together for a day, and I thought when I showed up this summer, I wouldn't be what you wanted. Let me, first of all, if that's his, like, big reason, let me make that decision for myself. And this has nothing against Carley Fortune, because every summer after read in one sitting. I read it sitting on the beach. I literally read it until it was time to go to dinner and I was finished. Like, it was so banging. Could not put it down. Like, the, like, absolutely perfect beach summer read. I finally finished Maybe at the Lake. I just want to preface by saying Every Summer After was one of my favorite books ever. Like, it was an amazing read. I read it in one day. Literally could not put it down. Like, so immersive. I was just like, I was there. This one just did not do it for me. I gave it a 2 stars. It just, like, it didn't work. It didn't work for me. They spent one amazing day together and then they pined over each other for 10 years when they had no contact with each other, haven't seen each other, and then 10 years go by, he meets up with her at the resort that she owns to, like, help her out with the renovations and everything, and they're both just like, oh, we love each other, blah, blah, blah. Then they have their little honeymoon phase. And then the night before he's supposed to head back home, he leaves, like, in the middle of the night. She wakes up and he's gone, no note. He checked out, he left all his clothes and, like, all his belongings. He left in such a rush. She calls him and he's like, this was a cute little fantasy, but, like, it can't keep going. Like, I can't talk to you right now. And she's like, okay, slide. Lose my number. And then she gets a little knock on her door and it's his sister. And she's like, you really need to go over and see him. Like, he's been a mess without you, and because you said to lose my number and, like, never see me again, he's gonna keep that and he's never gonna see you again unless you go talk to him. And so she's like, okay, I'll go talk to him. And then he's like, oh, I made such a mistake, but, like, you don't even want me. And she's like, straight up, I do. Why am I here if I don't? And he's like, no, you don't even know what I even am, like, inside. I'm like, girl, are you a vampire? He's been raising his cousin his whole life. Niece? I don't know. He's been helping raise his sister's daughter. And he's like, no girl ever wants to, like, help out. And she just, all the girlies think it's so weird that I, like, am a dad, but, like, not a dad. And she's like, no, I'm okay with that. And then a year later they're married, have a baby, and it's just like, that's how it ends. And I'm like, girl, I hated it. I only gave it 2 stars because I really like Peter, who was her father figure growing up, and the pastry chef at the resort. And I laughed twice. I remember, because I was like, wow, I actually laughed. So there are 2 parts of it that I actually, like, enjoyed. Yeah, I did not like it. And I have book club in 2 hours. I did get Ruffle chips because they eat the ruffled chips and gin and tonics like every Friday night or every Saturday night or something. And I got s'more cookies because it takes place at like a lakeside resort, and a little tradition obviously is to have like little s'mores, but I can't light a fire at the bookstore, so I settled for some s'more cookies. We'll see how they are. So yeah, gave it a 2-star. Sorry, this reading vlog was like not really a fail but kind of a flop because it's not like I remember the Shatter Me reading vlog was so beautiful because that series is so great, and Touch of Darkness was pretty good because I really enjoyed that. This was just such a boring book. I hated it. I hated it. Here's like all you need to know is if it wasn't my book club, I wouldn't have finished the book. That being said, I'm immediately starting Emily Henry's new book, Happy Place, because I've heard great things, and I hope it fills the little hole in my heart that has been carved from reading this book. But thanks for watching. Love ya.